AFC Championship game unfolded. The Chiefs beat the Ravens 17-10. And this was a disappointing game for the Baltimore Ravens, as we all know. I expected Lamar Jackson to be much better in this one. We saw Patrick Mahomes was very magical. We understood what he had to do. We also understood what Lamar Jackson had to do as well. And when you look at this from an eagle eye or a bird's eye view, the Ravens did not have a solid game plan like the Kansas City Chiefs did. And again, Lamar was, pretty disappointing in this one, and he was bullied a good bit in this game, sacked 4 times, pressured all game, pressured on about 35% of his dropbacks. But one of the biggest things I look at from this game is Todd Monken's play calling. Your identity is literally running the football. You are running the football as the Baltimore Ravens this year, and you have the number 1 rushing offense in the league. And the Baltimore running backs in this entire game had 6 carries. Zay Flowers damn near had as many carries as both running backs in this game for the Baltimore Ravens did. There was 16 rushing attempts the entire game. That's not the Baltimore Ravens' identity. The Ravens are 0-4 when they have less than 25 rushing attempts at all this season. They're 14-1 when they do rush over 25 times. So it's fairly clear that when the Ravens run the football, they establish their presence on the ground, they're more than likely going to win that football game. As you saw, only 1 loss when they rushed the ball over 25 times. Lamar dropped back 41 times, almost 85% of the plays in this game. Lamar Jackson was dropping back 37 pass attempts. And again, he was sacked 4 times versus 25 dropbacks against the Texans and 42 total rushing attempts for the Baltimore Ravens. This was the last game that Todd Monken needed to come out in his first year as Ravens offensive coordinator, boasting the offense that he has, boasting the run game that he has, and try to do something different. When you get to a conference championship game, your mindset is not to go away from your identity. And for anyone out there saying, oh, they didn't have time to run the ball, you're playing Mahomes and the Chiefs and Andy Reid. The game was never out of reach for the Baltimore Ravens. As I was watching this game, and like many other people have commented back to me as well, this was a game where the Ravens were in it. And all they had to do was have a play or two happen, which we did see sometimes at times, they did fall apart. They just had to get a play or two going, maybe just get one drive, half a drive going to get back into this game. It was never out of reach. It was never a lock that the Chiefs were going to win. But unfortunately, as the game did go on and they dropped back more and ran less, the game turned out the way that it did. And outside of the Ravens' only touchdown drive of the game, which was on their second possession, we saw Lamar Jackson get absolutely magical, evade the pressure, throw a bomb to Zay Flowers, and everybody was on fire, right? What a way to respond to the Kansas City Chiefs. The offense managed just 35 yards of total offense in the first half. They punted 5 times. Now, they did end up having a little over 330 total yards in this game, so definitely turned it around in the second half. And I will credit some of those adjustments there for the Ravens, but their identity still was very lost in this game. To know how egregious it was that the Ravens didn't run the football as much as they should have, the Chiefs were worst in the league at rush EPA and rush DVOA in terms of run defense, which are some advanced stats to show how effective a run defense actually is in certain situations. The Chiefs were dead last, worst in the league in EPA and DVOA. And while Baltimore sported the best rushing offense in the NFL, and the Chiefs just gave up 182 yards to Buffalo last week, everybody was saying, man, the Chiefs just gave up 180 plus to Josh Allen and the Bills. The Ravens are about to run for 350 all over them. Was not the case whatsoever. John Harbaugh and Todd Monken said, not Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, save us. And unfortunately, he wasn't able to do it. And it was just so baffling to know that the Ravens were, best record in the league. Ooh, 792. Let's go. Thanks, babe, for popping in. I always love and appreciate you. But knowing that the Chiefs just gave up 180 plus rushing yards to the Bills, and the Ravens turn around and just completely spoil it, you don't get to a conference championship game and just go away from your identity. Don't go away from what has made you the best unit in terms of running the ball all year. It was the worst time possible to do it, and unfortunately, it came back and bit the Ravens. The Chiefs won without Willie Gay, no Joe Thuney. They beat the number 1 defense. They outplayed the so-called MVP, which we're going to talk about later in the show, and they did it on the road in the 1 seed's house. Giving all that, that's what the Ravens were up against. They sported that number 1 defense. They do have possibly the best player in football. I think it's personally Patrick Mahomes, and he should be the MVP. But again, we'll talk about that later. And you were the 1 seed at home field through the playoffs on your bye week and all. And now we're sitting here talking about Lamar Jackson with a 2-4 postseason record. And this is the most vulnerable Chiefs team that we've seen. The Chiefs beat Lamar Jackson. They beat Josh Allen on the road. They're back in the Super Bowl for 4 of the last 5 years. The Chiefs wide receivers led the NFL in drop passes. This was the worst wide receiving core and maybe some of the most bare or worst offense, you can say, from the Kansas City Chiefs in recent memory. Very vulnerable team, and the Ravens were not able to capitalize. And people always say, "Oh, people think the NFL is very oh, Lord, what's that word? Uh, Lord, I'm losing it. Either way, people think the NFL goes in steps to where, oh, I'm in the AFC divisional, now I'm in the AFC championship. It's not guaranteed that you're going to get back there. It's not guaranteed that the Ravens are going to be there next year. And you have to capitalize on the chances when you get them, because we know the Ravens have not been to a Super Bowl in over 10 years. And this was their best shot, maybe outside of the first MVP year with Lamar when they got embarrassed by the Titans off the bye. And this was an embarrassing game for the Ravens, knowing that they played the way that they did. They couldn't stop Travis Kelce. 11 targets, 11 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown, making catch after catch. We saw the way Kelce was making immaculate catches in this game, and especially for the touchdown to start it off. The Ravens were just very undisciplined, though. I mean, they had too many men on the field at one point. There were offsides on back-to-back calls during the end of the game, 8 penalties for 95 yards. You got some people roughing Patrick Mahomes a couple of times. I mean, literally clotheslining him coming off the defensive line. And I'm not mad at that player for that, because he was clearly going to try to get the ball as he saw Mahomes' arm coming forward. He just unfortunately slapped him in the front of the face mask. Zay Flowers with the taunting penalty. Come on, man. I understand you're a young kid, rookie year, 5 catches, over 100 yards in your first ever AFC championship game with the Super Bowl on the line. One of the biggest plays of the game for the Ravens, wiped away 15 yards, all because you want to stand over someone, taunt them, and throw the ball on them. I get it. You're competitive. Zay, you were one of my favorite receivers coming into the league, but that play cost you. And it just showed, right? Like, this team still has some playoff experience to get underneath them. Not necessarily John Harbaugh. And yes, Lamar has played in 6 playoff games, but this team is still kind of growing together for these big moments. We talked about it earlier in the year. We couldn't trust the Ravens with a lead. Now, they didn't have a lead in this game. And maybe now it's a thing of looking at, they need more discipline. 8 penalties for 95 yards, couple roughing the passer calls. That's not going to cut it in an AFC championship game against a top 6, top 5 quarterback of all time in Patrick Mahomes, and a top 3 coach, arguably, of all time in Andy Reid. I told y'all before the game started, too, this was going to be a defensive squabble. Turnovers would decide this game. There's a reason the final score was 17-10. Lamar threw a horrible pass into triple coverage. Some people want to say he was interfered with that. I kind of disagree. I didn't see the best angle to actually determine if it was pass interference. But either way, Lamar threw it into triple coverage. Whether he was interfered with or not, it was a bad throw. You shouldn't throw throw the ball into a pool of 3 defenders. It's going to have to be a dot, and clearly it wasn't. That's my Lamar Jackson got intercepted in the end zone. The fumble on the strip sack from Lamar, another turnover on his case, and I'm not going to get irritated at him for that, because some of the best get stripped like that, but you do have to have that pocket awareness to be able to shoot out of there, and it was a great play by the Chiefs. But probably the biggest play of the game, a season-saving, game-saving, touchdown-saving play by L'Jarius Sneed. Zay Flowers, the Ravens driving down the field. This feels like the moment that the Ravens are going to get into the end zone, and I believe at the time make it a 17-14 game. Zay Flowers diving for the end zone. Some people want to knock him for diving at the end zone. I say the kid's playing his heart out. He's a rookie. He's trying to score. L'Jarius Sneed with a defensive player of the year style play, punching it out of Zay Flowers' grip. Chiefs recovered in the end zone for a touchback, and that was very tough to watch. So basically, both of your turnovers, the interception and then the interception and the fumble did both happen in the red zone, or in the end zone, basically. And then we see Lamar get strip sacked as well. But it's going to be hard to beat Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs when your defense is on the field for 37 minutes. The Chiefs held the ball offensively for 37 minutes in this game. The Ravens defense was absolutely gassed, but I will give them credit, because after the Chiefs marched down the field on 2 long 75-plus yard touchdown drives, from that point on in the second quarter, Ravens defense absolutely lights out. They forced a turnover on downs. They would only allow a field goal for the rest of the game. No points in the second half, and forced the Chiefs to punt on 6 of their final 7 possessions. Of course, we know Lamar had some big MVP plays. in this game as well. We saw him catch his own pass. We saw the big touchdown pass to Zay Flowers. But I will not understand how you can be the best run offense going against one of the potential worst run defenses when you start to look at those advanced stats and wonder why you lost the football game. I won't understand that. Lamar does not need to drop back on 80+% of his drives. And unfortunately now, in a year where Todd Monken had Lamar Jackson with the best completion percentage from the pocket and his best passing yards from the pocket and his best passing season with the most yards he's ever passed for, and most of his yards came inside the pocket. It's it's tough to stomach this because we wanted Lamar to win. A lot of people wanted Lamar to win so the naysayers could put it to bed. And Chris Jones even said before the game, if we make him drop back and pass from the pocket, we might blow him out. Now, they didn't blow him out, but the Chiefs were 100% in control of this game. Again, the Ravens were never out of it. The Chiefs can be in control, and the Ravens can still be inching their way back into the game, but the Ravens never fully got back into it, and that's why the game played out the way that it did. People are going to continue to say that Lamar Jackson can't perform in the pocket. People are going to continue to say that he's maybe a running back that can throw the football. While I don't agree with that, people are going to look at games like this, look at play calls and play schemes like this from Todd Monken and John Harbaugh, and wonder why things played out the way that they did. It was 17-7 at the half. The Ravens didn't score until a field goal in the fourth quarter, but give credit to the Chiefs defense too. This is literally a battle of the first and second best defense in the NFL. The Chiefs defense comes in, they slam the door shut in the second half. They force back-to-back punts to begin the third quarter, and then they force turnovers on the next two possessions for the Baltimore Ravens. So the Chiefs are now in their fourth Super Bowl in the last 5 years and 4 Super Bowls in the 6 years as Patrick Mahomes as their starter, and they could very well win their third Super Bowl, and the dynasty, as if it wasn't possibly already established, the dynasty will now be fully intact.